At the Birmingham Rep from the 20th of May, Little Women has a limited run. Catherine Chalk is playing Beth in the show and joins me now to tell me about the production. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
All good here. Now, it runs through to the 24th of May, so it's one to get in there quick to get along to see. And this is obviously all based on a book. One I have to admit, I ashamedly have never read, but is a staple in schools across the UK.
Absolutely. Well, you definitely should read it. I read it just for this job. I hadn't read it beforehand, and it's so wonderful and has so much in it that you can't get into any adaptation. So I do recommend.
Louisa May Alcott is behind the story, and this was inspired by her experiences growing up. And it is literally one of the best love novels of all time. And from the sense of things, once you've read it, you adore the characters, the people, and the way in which the situation is explained. And the world of sisterhood, courage, and ambition. That's just the starting point, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think all of the sisters have such a distinct voice, and I think it's so beloved because everyone can find part of themselves or see themselves in one or more of these sisters, and they all have these like vividly different journeys, but they're all kind of as important as each other. And I think all the different routes that you can take in life are really explored and valued in this story.
And a journey into womanhood, but a journey in a slightly different time to our own.
Yes, I mean, obviously it's set in the 1850s, 1860s, but there's so much that feels as relevant today as it was when it was written about sort of women trying to find their voices, being taken seriously. You know, especially with everything that's happening in the world at the moment, a lot of that seems to be under threat at the moment. So to have a story that does go into all of that, but also explores it with such joy and laughter and heart feels really important at the moment.
I mean, being in a time now, we shouldn't see any parallels between day-to-day life and this book. In theory, you would hope. It should only be some
Yeah.
of the smaller moments of positivity and the togetherness, which is actually runs alongside women's experience today. As you said, that's not the case, but this is interesting to see that when times were possibly harder, I'm not saying it's easy now, but times were possibly harder, women hadn't even got the vote at this point. We would still, see such elation at times here, and the fact that even in spite of the world and the way it treats women here, they are able to get on top. They're able to be the people they deserve to be, and that again is it's heartwarming in its own way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you put it brilliantly. And I think it really celebrates the resilience of women in particular, the sort of the characters. And you see it in so many different ways and all the different generations of women in this show as well, which I think is really interesting. You have the Aunt March character played by Belinda Lang, who's very much in touch with the tradition of things and the doing things by the book and trying to get by as best you can, marrying well, which some of the characters in the story can look down on, but actually it comes from this place of great practicality and understanding of the world that she's in. And then you have the Marmee character, who's this kind of pillar of strength and kindness and home. And then obviously you have all four girls who are so free spirited in their different ways. And I think that's one of the things I love about this adaptation in particular is that you really get to see all those different generations of women and how they've all kind of helped one another become more free as we go through time. And I think a lot of people can relate to that with their parents, their mothers, their grandmothers, their sisters, um, just in guiding each other forward and hopefully making it better for the next generation than it was for the previous.
And again, that's what we hope and strive for in this day and age too. The fact that
Yeah.
we look to people to inspire and then move forward. Although role models have changed significantly since this time, so it's interesting to see how our role models might be more locally based, whereas these days people look up to stars of X Factor and beyond. But actually, you in this time, your role model structure is very different. probably in some ways more wholesome, but equally with various layers that you don't necessarily always see from the surface.
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting point, and I guess a lot of it comes from you know, pre-technology, people didn't have all this contact to all these different people across the world, or these, interacting with strangers, as it were. You had your family and you had your friends and the people around you, which I think is still very true of today. But yeah, it is interesting to see how role models change and what becomes important or less important as time goes by. And I think this story definitely celebrates the role model of family and sisterhood and female friendship, as even outside of family. I think
Mhm.
these girls, they're friends with one another and they want to see each other win. And it's lovely to have a story that kind of brings that back, and you get to see that close to home and can remind us of all the brilliant women and people and loved ones that we have in our lives outside of social media and the sort of strange world that we live in now.
And Louisa May Alcott's world would have been one where men would have been behaving in a way which we would now class as misogynistic, yet was pretty much standard back then. And you got the title Little Women. It has that sort of connotation to it as well. When if you look at it from, it could be seen in a negative way rather than the positive, actually, which is these girls growing into womanhood.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think, again, one of the sad parallels is that we do still face a lot of misogyny, more so in sort of the past 5 years, I feel, than in you know, since my childhood. Um, so yeah, it's in a way I found it um not refreshing, but it's just very interesting to be able to see all of the parallels and kind of experience these women's struggles and link them to some that we still face today and see how they overcome it and how they deal with it. And I suppose back then it was faced with a lot more just acceptance of this is how things are and you can't change it. But then you also have the character of Jo who very, very much fights back against that and says, she's so aware of it and says lines in the show like, if I were a boy, I could do all of these things. I could study, I could go and fight. Um, and I think it's a great reminder for us nowadays, for the audiences watching, of yes, we live in difficult times, but there's always been difficult times, especially for women, and we just have to keep fighting against it and pushing back and not letting people say, you know, what you can and cannot do. Um, so in that way, I think the show is a lovely reminder for us to keep fighting.
Absolutely. Keep fighting and be inspired by the characters that are part of this show. As I say, it runs from the
Mm.
20th of May through to the 24th, Tuesday through Saturday. Birmingham-rep.co.uk to get your tickets. You can get them through the box office by giving that a call too. But I think this is, it sounds like an amazing telling of the story and a glorious look on stage as well. Is it completely immerses you in there in the time?
We do our best. We do our best. I think the set is beautiful, and all of the creatives have done such a fantastic job on this show. So I think anyone that comes to see will hopefully be transported along with us.
Well, we'll send you back to a time gone by, yet still inspiring and running parallels to the world we live in today. Catherine Chalk, Beth in Little Women, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.